they'll lynch you. But he did, and he laughs at
Yes. Hi, everybody. Russ. Oh, no. Hello. Hi, everybody. Russ of the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. If you're new around here, where the hell have you been? Over about 45% of you statistically aren't subscribers. So if you could, it'd be lovely. And while you're there, give it a cheeky like and some comments. All good stuff. Or maybe become a channel member and support us through the channel that way. Happy Monday. Weekends go quickly, don't they? And bit of a skipping our step, really. I think after Newcastle performance, I thought it was a very good performance. And that's what we'll do today. Is we'll sort of do the ratings, but rather than do it on my Todd, friend of the channels, not friend of the channel, he's an old man of the channel, so to speak. Sorry, Alf. He's drinking a cup of tea. But anyway, let's bring you in. You got Alf. How are you doing, big man?
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yes, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Yes, I've got a spring in my step this afternoon. So
yeah, I have as well. It was in terms of performance, I thought it was. We did like the 5 things you've learned and all the final word and stuff like that, and the review show. And I think we just showed a bit of the old bottle that we've had in the last couple of years. And
can I just say, I love this. Hold on, look at that. Look at that. Sponsored by Untuck It.
You can tickle it, yeah. although I'm the only bugger who remembers to message them to get some gear. So I've got to get some for Anton. He keeps moaning about it.
I can deal with a new shirt.
Very good, and they're worn to be untucked, hence the name.
Exactly, Untuck It. There we go.
There we go. We'll sort you
proud
out.
Sponsors of West Ham Network.
One of many, it seems.
Well, exactly.
When the actual sponsor video takes longer than the actual video itself, I think there's an imbalance there. But no, it's no. I thought.
Sorry.
No.
Carry on.
I thought we showed some bottle. I was going to say we're not sponsored by any soft drinks at the moment, but we should. I thought we showed some bottle for once.
Yeah, definitely. I think we. It was interesting. I was saying before the game. I said, if we play this right, we could come away with a draw or a cheeky 2-1 win. And we weren't far away from a 2-1 win there. And, I thought it was just a great game to watch. I think it was end to end. Both teams, had their moments. They started off really well, unfortunately, of course. I'd say kind of 20 minutes, 25 minutes into the game, we started to find our feet. And then I think we sort of dominated the rest of the half. Then into 25 minutes into the second half, I thought it was our game, really. And then the last 15, 20 minutes, I thought we had our moments, but it was their game.
Yeah.
So it was a decent game to watch, I thought.
It was. And I think particularly the first half, we didn't want that first half to end because we were so on top. And you're right, it was quite funny. Listen to Dec and Aguerd's interview post-match, and he was saying the frustrating thing was that was probably our best warm-up we've had all season. Yeah. And we were like, we looked sharp and we looked ready. Yeah. And then they came out and obviously, then we had the disallowed goal and maybe the second disallowed goal, second maybe because of, in terms of there was a foul on Antonio, perhaps, slightly higher up in the transition of the game. But it was like just typical, wasn't it? We were like build them up, but we came back and we said the second quarter of the first half was probably the best we've seen for a long time this season, a long time.
Yeah, I think we played with a lot more endeavour, a lot more sort of. We were playing as a team, I thought, and we were playing off each other a lot more. And we were pressing a lot, and there seemed to be a lot more urgency about us. And I don't know if this is obviously a tactic. I don't know if this is whether all the players are just collectively thought we've really got to go for this. I had this theory beforehand that the players had gone into this game thinking Newcastle are playing really well because they're having a cracking season, right? They're playing really well. They're just coming off a high of getting into the Carabao Cup final, going to play Man United. And if we don't go there to play at 100%, 110%, not only in terms of quality, but in terms of, commitment, we're going to get completely smashed here. And that, in my mind, that's what I was thinking. If we don't go up there and just go toe to toe with them, we're going to get completely smashed. And I think we were unlucky to come away with just a draw. I thought we could have won that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Yeah, we could have nicked it. You're too right. I mean, as you said, sort of 1-1, but that sort of cheeky 2-1, more than possible. And I think actually Newcastle, to be fair, I think there was a couple of maybe half chances in that second half, but there wasn't apart from the tackle, which is what it's referred to now. You don't need to talk about it, just the tackle.
Yeah.
That was the really only clear-cut chance they had.
I mean, they had that penalty. They had that header from Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
And it was straight at Fabs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And do you know what? I haven't seen any replay of it properly or proper in-depth replay of it. But I think even if because it was a poor header in many ways, because it was straight at Fabs, if he'd gone left or right or headed it down, that, it would have gone in. But I'm just wondering whether anybody saw what I saw as a glimpse, that he was offside anyway when the ball was played. And I think it would have been disallowed anyway. So even, and that's their only proper chance that they had, apart from the tackle.
Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right.
Yeah.
And as we tend to do the night after the night before, or the day after the night before today, we do the ratings. We go through the players. Obviously, you in the chat, you can sort of give us your thoughts, and we'll take myself and ours perspective as well. I think it's weird having sort of and obviously the last few games. I mean, we had a good January. January, really, and so hopefully. We've obviously got big games.
End of January.
Yeah.
End of January.
Yeah. End of January. Yeah, but what was it? 4 games undefeated now, or 5 and 6 or something like that? And since so
I think that the points against Everton were crucial.
Yeah.
And that I was at the game, and it was. I don't know if anybody else had a similar experience with the Everton fans, and I came across a few before the game.
Yeah,
and I met a few as queuing up, and they were saying that they just spoken to some Everton fans, and basically both sets of fans are saying how crap our own teams were, and we're all expecting our team to lose, and it's almost like, no, we're worse. No, we're worse. No.
It's like,
when we actually got into the game, we kind of took it to them, and they were really poor. They were really poor, and it was only in that second half when we first start the second half, they had about 3 or 4 opportunities on goal, and better finishing, just another half yard there, they would have scored a couple of goals easily. So it was kind of, but for the most part, they had lots of possession, but no bite at all. So
no, you're right.
And I think the reason why I brought that up, because I just saw Peter's comment, basically, let's not get carried away because it's in the relegation fight. Absolutely right. That's my point there. That it was a great win, and whilst we got on the back of another great win against Derby, let's not forget Everton were really, really poor. Derby are a League One side, granted, in the playoff positions right now. So this was a real test for us, and I'm so glad that we rose to the occasion and took it to Newcastle and on with the player ratings, because that's what we're here for.
No, exactly. And that Everton game reminded me of that famous, was it the 4 Yorkshiremen sketch, where it's like, you think you've had it bad. I used to eat gravel when I was a kid. And that's exactly
it is. It's exactly right.
We've got Frank Lampard as our manager. Anyone who watched, I watched Michael McIntyre's show on Saturday, the whole thing about how good Everton were, and they were really nice. They did this thing for this kid, this bloke, and actually half the team's left now, and the manager since they've put it up. But no, it's good. Right, let's start off. We start with 6. Mr. Fabianski, obviously Fab's, back in the. Well, he's been playing every Premier League game this season. By all accounts, Areola got a little knock or a little thigh strain and wasn't on the bench. We had Anang and Heggie, which was a bit of a surprise. But what do you think about Fabianski's performance on Saturday?
I thought it was solid. I didn't really see much wrong with it. I thought, there's still, I think there's still times about his distribution. I think sometimes, but I thought for the most part, I thought he had a decent game. He had he made a couple of good blocks. Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I can't really blame him for the disallowed goal. I don't think, and I can't really blame him for the the goal that they scored from Wilson, because I think he came out, we tried to narrow the angle, but it was right down their throat, really. So there's there's nothing he's going to do. Was it Wilson who scored for them? Yeah, it was Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson, bloody Callum Wilson. Of course it was.
Yeah, he always scores against us. That's right, from Bournemouth days and obviously Newcastle. But I thought, he came out as best he could. It was a poor defensive error. I mean, they hit us, cold, really. And he hit it early, right past it. There's nothing he can do about it. So I don't blame him for the goal at all,
No, and actually, speaking of bloody Callum Wilson, every time he tried to get the ball out quickly, that was obviously, they knew that was a tactic we were trying to employ. Yeah. Bloody Callum Wilson stood in front of him all the bloody time.
Yeah.
Which always winds me up. No, I agree. I thought he didn't really have mumuch to... He had I mean, to be fair, there was a couple of times where they had some good crosses into the box and corners, and he rose above quite. You got likes of Dan Burns, Sven Botman, some big boys, and it was safe hands. I thought.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought it was how can I be nice about this without being disrespectful? It was unremarkable.
And that's the best thing for a goalkeeper sometimes, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? It was just, it was a decent game. He didn't make really mistakes, but I always get concerned if a goalkeeper has a fantastic game.
Yes. Yeah. that means there's lots to do.
Yeah, exactly right.
Same as the defenders. I think if defenders have a really good game, it's because they're usually putting last-minute challenges and diving in front of things. What we got here? Sevens, lots of sevens. Budgie's got an 8.
I'd agree with that. 7s or 8s, yeah.
Gravel, luxury. Gravel, that was a luxury. 6, Russie, I think I gave him a 7 as well. Let me just check my scores. I gave him what did I give him? I gave him a 7. There we go. Yeah, that's what it is.
There we go.
Right. Yeah, I was right. Okay, let's move on. Donkey Kong.
But strange choice for 2 keepers, and obviously the Areola caught me off guard. Because I was totally unaware of that before the game. Well, I suppose we all were, weren't we? But I just thought, I'm not sure about those. I'm not sure what this fascination with having 2 keepers.
No,
and
we always seem to do it though. We've always done it.
For ever since Moyes has been there. Well, I don't know. Did any other managers do it? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I can't think of it. But I thought, well, if he's interested in bringing on the young players, then why are we taking up a space with an extra keeper? Okay, that's a discussion for another video.
Well, Alf, it's a good discussion. On Wednesdays, we've got Tony Carr on the show, so we could have a discussion then. There we go.
There you go.
Perfect. It's almost like you knew. But no, it's true though. I think you're totally right. And it's almost like for me, it was like having 2 young keepers together where they're like looking after themselves. Because I mean, Joseph Anang has not appeared in the squad at all. He's been at Derby, and Heggy's been sort of on the bench sometimes for the cup games. But it was a strange one. We do that quite a lot. It's like what we need someone like Henry Lansbury who can play sub goalkeeper if we need one. Like Big Sam used to do that. He used to put a goalkeeper on the bench, and Henry played a couple of games when Yushi was injured. He'd come on, and I love that. I think that's great.
Have I missed something here in January? Am I completely so out of touch? But where was Randolph? What have we done?
He's gone.
He definitely has gone. Yeah, okay.
I think they sold him. I think I don't know if they sold it. I don't think we actually got any money for him, but he went to Bournemouth.
Oh, right. Okay. So, I totally missed that then. That then.
There we go.
Right, okay. There we go. Because I was thinking, hold on, what are we doing? Where's but there we go.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And
that's just threw me with Areola just not being there, and I thought, what's going on? But there we go.
That's the hindsight thing. Don't forget. Don't remember like Pellegrini. That was his vision, wasn't it? Don't sign Adrian to a long-term deal. And then one gets injured and send the kids out, and then we end up with Roberto.
Yeah.
So let's not hope.
Oh my
let's
God!
Hope it doesn't happen. Let's talk about. He was shocking, when Roberto. He was in London the other day on his Instagram, and I was thinking, oh God.
Don't come to us, please.
Could you imagine half-time guest? I should get him on half-time guest. Roberto, give him the mic. He drops it. Yeah.
What a great 20 minutes you had.
that signing basically wrote what's his name's death warrant, so to speak. Wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely
crazy. Right, let's go with Tilo Kehrer. Obviously only played half a game, so he really probably can't say much about him. He's got a knot. He went off with a hamstring injury. Doubt could be doubtful for the Chelsea game. is it a loss? Not much of a loss. Some people, Twitter, you can imagine it's not a loss at all if you look at that as the sort of the barometer. But yeah, okay. I mean, again, it's like he didn't sort of, that half wasn't really memorable. But is that a good thing for a defender?
I think of what I saw of him in that game, and I kind of had to block out my bias about his previous performances. But I thought sometimes he was a bit out of step, out of position, and he seemed to be a bit slow to respond in certain. He made a couple of mistakes here and there, but again, there wasn't anything dramatic. But I just sort of thought about it. I thought, well, you're not having a bad game per se, but I just thought you looked a bit slow. You looked a bit. He looked like a player who didn't have a lot of confidence in that position.
Yeah.
You contrast him to, Aguerd. Aguerd. How do you pronounce him? Aguerd?
Aguerd, yeah.
Is it good? Okay.
Yeah.
Who's got oodles of confidence.
Yeah.
It's way up there, isn't it? So,
it's a bit of a
it's a difficult one to call, this one, I think.
Yeah, a bit of a non-starter, I think, to be honest. I think, and I tell you, get your point. It just we have this sort of curse with centre backs, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. We'll talk about Ben Johnson.
On paper, he should be.
He should be, yeah.
He should be, like, well, when I say world class, but he's an international, German international. He should be right at a great level. So he's been such a slow starter for us. It's hard to imagine whether he just needs a lot more time in the Premier League to become that great player that we hope he would be. But
I mean, he hit the ground running, and he played really well, I thought, the first few games, and then he played England, Germany, and he played right back, and then people go, why are we not using him right back? That's where they're playing for Germany. And then he had a couple of good games, and then he just fell off a cliff, really, unfortunately, for Thilo. But as I said, he'll be doubtful for. I'll be surprised if he's playing for the Chelsea game. So it might mean Ben Johnson comes back into the side. Score-wise, there's some sixes, some fives, some fives, 3 from GP. We can't. I mean, I gave him a 5, but you couldn't really call it, to be honest, because he's only played half a game, really, and he doesn't really. And it's different because I've given Ben Johnson a good rating, and he played a half, but it was more memorable. But maybe because Newcastle were on the attack a bit more. But
I just wonder how many players are affected by sort of confidence, or how many players are affected by what they perceive the fan base to think about them as well. And and I think he seems to have been one of those players. Whilst I agree with you, he had a couple of decent performances when he first came. He also, in his very first game, didn't he give away a penalty, which it wasn't his fault. He was kind of forced into it because it was a duff back pass, and he was taking it. And then the second game, again, he gave away a couple of crucial fouls and stuff.
Yeah.
And you think,
he
decent performances, but really bad errors here, or we got caught out. And it was from that point, it didn't get any better. It kind of went downhill. So I'm just wondering whether us as a fan base, we're having not just as a fan base, but as, like us, people on YouTube and Twitter and all that sort of stuff, whether we're having any kind of negative effect, not only on him, but on any of the players this season who have been not performing at the standards of, let's say, a year and a half ago.
Most definitely. We've had on the transfer deadline day, we had Matty Jarvis on, and we asked him, and considering Matty was sort of playing, just social media wasn't like it was getting bigger. It's not like it is now. Even then, he would have a quick. We asked him, I'd have a quick look, see what people were saying about me. And that's then rather than now. So youngsters going into the game now, it's all about social media. So that's how they probably assess their performances based on what the fan base is saying.
I mean, any manager, you're saying to your players, stay off Instagram, stay off Twitter, stay off whatever, just stay away from it, because it can't be good for your mental health. And it can't be good for your confidence. And as fans, what we want you to be as a player, we want you to be confident. We want you to be expressive. We want you to, play with whatever. So, it's a difficult one. On one hand, I want to say to us as fans, we've got to be critical. We've got to give our opinion. We've got, on the other hand, we're going to say, hold on a minute, let's just wind it back a bit, because we're kind of having a detrimental effect against certain players. It's a difficult one. I know.
It's totally, and I think you're totally right. I think I think we try and do a fair balance here. So it's like if someone's not played well, we'll say they haven't played well.
Yeah.
But when they have played well, we probably go over the top a little bit to compensate for that. So
well, we're fans at the end of the day. We're gonna big them up as much as we can.
Yeah, exactly. And when you tell people not to do something, they do the complete opposite. There we go, as Peter said.
Yeah,
well, true.
Yeah, true, very true.
Right, let's talk about a player who has been playing sort of well in the last couple of games, despite the fact he's, probably coming to the end of his career. I think, to be fair, or maybe one more move in Oggy. Ogbonna obviously played again, 90 minutes again. I never thought we'd see him again in the West Ham shirt, to be honest, this season after his massive injury last year.
Yeah, I think it's been good to see him back. Actually, good to see a senior statesman in our defence. I think add a bit of muscle memory, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Somebody who kind of knows where they should be positioning themselves, trying to read the game a little bit. I question whether he's still got the legs. I question, all this sort of stuff. Is his age and his injury sort of playing a factor? But I think he had a decent game.
Yeah, I think he is. I think the partnership, or of him and Aguerd and whoever's the third man.
Yeah,
I think Aguerd is help. It seems to be helping him. And he's done this. He was, just be honest, when we signed him, he wasn't that great, and then he got injured, and then from about the ages of 31 onwards, he became this sort of like. He sort of grew into the role and was brilliant. Then he gets injured. It was Liverpool last year, I think it was November last year, something like that, or year before last. And then that was it. That sort of curtailed it. And he was all in and out, and again just kept getting injured. But no, I thought he had a really good game.
Well, that season before he got injured. No, hold on. I'm just trying to think now. hold on. 21, 22. So we're talking 2021.
Yeah.
That season, he was arguably our best player.
Yeah.
For many, whilst we'd like to poke fun at him or not him, at his performances sometimes in the past. That season he rose above it, and it was just like, wow, great performances, and time again, great. Ogbonna. He got an Italian call up as well.
Yeah.
A couple of times, featured in the squad on numerous occasions, and then it just unfortunately got injured, and that all fell away as well. But then again, that's what I'm saying, his age is kind of working against him. And when he got that injury, I thought that kind of injury and his age, he's never coming back. So I'm with you. I'm surprised he came back.
Yeah, no, I am. Obviously, his contract runs out at the end of the season as well, so I don't think we'll renew it. But
no,
I think he'll go back to Italy. There was some number of clubs looking at him over the summer and actually in January again. So but obviously we've only got like two recognised centre backs.
Well, what's the criticism? What's the criticism of our squad this season from like a big percentage of the fan base? I would imagine. I'm not 100% sure. I don't speak for anybody, of course. But I would imagine that most fans are identifying that we're playing with an aging first 11 or aging squad, and we should be, bringing in a lot younger players in.
Yeah,
and inserting in those key positions, Krez, left back, obviously across the defence as well. So.
Totally, and you're totally right. And then it goes back to this Red Bull model, and it's like a Red Bull model, and it's like, okay, we'll let Craig Dawson go. We haven't got a replacement, and then people we've got Louise out. I don't think Louise out's going to get much game time at the moment at West Ham, in terms of first team football. And then they look into bringing someone like during January, someone like Michael Keane, and it's like, well, that's not that. Okay, it's 3 years younger than Dawson, but that's not really, Exactly. And it's left back's an area which we'd be looking to improve, and right back as well, both full backs. It's and then we let Harrison Ashby go, don't we? He wasn't on the bench yesterday, which I thought was on Saturday, which I thought was a bit weird.
I just did not understand that at all. That's another one I just didn't understand. But
we never. That's why we got Tony Curran to see if he can make some sense in this. Because, from a learned position, from the Oracle, from Mr. Academy, he may be able to shed some light on that. Because, it was a bizarre one. But no, it looks like 6s and 7s for. He wasn't in 6s and 7s. Well, he was at the beginning, to be honest. He was partly to blame for that goal. But looks like 6s and 7s. I think I gave him. I gave him a 7. I'm going to give him a 6. I've changed it. I'm going to give him a 6.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. A 6.
Yeah, we'll give him a 6. Right, let's talk about the third third man, not the third leg, very much the leading leg is
him.
the Moroccan Moor.
0, 0, 1.
Outstanding.
Rubbish.
Yeah,
Absolute rubbish.
Get him out. Right, what's
Get
he
him
doing at
out.
our club? What's he doing at our club? Bring back Roger Johnson. He's just getting better.
Brilliant.
And better, isn't he? Better
Absolutely
than better.
brilliant. Yeah. Great performance. All around, not just of that tackle, but all around, just the reading of the game, the way it sort of came, anything that came past and down the left-hand side, he was, chasing balls down, intercepting, movement, positioning, anything that I was looking at him as a player, I thought, wow, what a player we've got here.
Yeah. And it's a thing I think everyone's assumed, everyone's been saying, if he hadn't got injured at the beginning of the season, we wouldn't be in this position.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
so clear. And it's so clear because it's not, because you see the way he drags players around.
Yeah.
He drags Ogbonna around. Emerson's become a much better player with him there. You can see we've got more confidence in him.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. He brings the confidence to the defense, and then Declan Rice doesn't think he has to sit in front of the defense as a front sweeper. He can go forward a lot more. And as I said, it's built from the back, the defense. But I just thought he was absolutely exceptional. And obviously there was the tackle, and we've got a hell of a player. You can see why we wanted him for so long. You can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely brilliant. The Moroccan Bobby Moore. I'm waiting for West Ham clips to nick that. I've trademarked that.
We're just gonna. I don't know what could we call him. He's got to have. He hasn't got a nickname yet, has he? So we've got to give him something.
Nathan, isn't it? It's Nathan because Moyes can't say Nath. He calls him Nathan. Yeah. So in the press conference, he calls him Nathan. It's like, what if you got a name, a nickname being Nathan? It's like, for Christ's sake, it's not hard, is it?
Oh dear.
But no, I think everyone's matching our sentiments here in terms of scores. I mean, he was phenomenal. He was a class above, and I think, with what he brings, I just think he's brilliant. I think that's brilliant.
And it's consistency now, isn't it? That's what we need from these kinds of players, to say consistently perform at such a high level that it actually encourages, as you said, as you rightly say, his performance enabled Emerson to have a much better game as well. So, you hope that the consistency he shows enables other players to raise their game and do a lot better.
The Moroccan Maldini. That sounds better.
There you go. There you go.
Because if I put Bobby Moore in there, I'll get daggers. But the Moroccan Maldini, we'll give him that.
There you go. Wow, he's in good company then, isn't he?
He's in great company.
One of my favourite players of all time, Maldini. By the way. Yeah. One of my favourite players of all time.
He's a phenomenal player. I think I gave him a 9. He was my man of the match. So,
what?
Yeah,
9.
Well, it's like a 10 if he scored. I mean, it wasn't. If he scored a goal, I think that would have been a 10, and he should have done. To be honest, he should have done.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm with you. I'm with you a little bit. You can't overpraise them. Do you know what I mean? No. You got to just leave a little bit.
Well,
done well, but you could improve.
You can always improve. But shit sandwich, isn't it? You've done really well. But he didn't score.
Just rein it in a little bit.
Just rein it in. Let's not get too excited just yet. Yeah. Let's talk about Coufal. Coufal, obviously, back. Obviously, Ben played right wing back against Derby. Coufal back into the sides. It was gonna be tricky because St Maximin was back in the side for Newcastle, and he always tears us a new one. But I thought he coped all right, Coufal.
Yeah,
I
thought he was probably one of his better performances of the last year or so. He didn't make that classic mistake that he's made in previous games I wouldn't say he does it on every game. Like the ball will come in from the right hand side, misses all the defenders, and he seems to try and make a recovery header instead of headering it out. He kind of heads it back across the face of the goal, and he's done that too many times, for me to think about. So he didn't do any of that this time. So and he played with a lot of energy and a lot of conviction. Obviously, he put his body on the line as well. So I really appreciated that performance from Coufal there.
From Vlad, and I think so. I know what you mean. He was, he's getting back to sort of the levels it's not going to be. It's not totally there, but obviously he when he hit the ground running that Leicester away game, he just turned up like the day before, and for that rest of the season, he was phenomenal. And
exactly,
he's thinking, God, we got a bargain here for £4 million.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he sort of fell off the cliff a little bit, but he seems to be getting a bit of confidence back. And as you said, I thought he's shackled Saint-Maximin reasonably well. He's obviously not blistered with pace, so it's more of a wily defensive role for him. And I thought he did all right. We got sevens. Lee put 7.5. There's no half points in this game. Lee 7 or 8. 8. So
I thought he did really well, not only just sort of defensively, but a couple of times where I noticed that he went forward or he's going forward, and he got into good crossing positions as well. I think his final ball delivery at times has improved, not just in this game, but in sort of recent previous games as well that he's played as well. I agree. Whereas before, he was decent going forward. He had played lots of energy in defence as well, but he got him past the halfway line and then put him in a cross, and it's just like, you're not reaching anybody with that cross, mate. But or anytime he took a shot and it would just, the goal's that way and the ball's going over that way somewhere, but that is definitely improved. So maybe that's something that Moisey and the coaching staff have been working on. I don't know.
Maybe. It just seemed to be, in general, like the higher press was there a bit more. It was like really sort of like what we used to do for the last couple of years, almost outrun them basically in an energy level, and that seemed to sort of come from the back all the way forward, or from the front all the way back rather. I think I gave him a 7 as well. I gave him a 7. That's it. I think it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable. Right, let's talk about Emerson. Oh, let's bring you back in. There we go. He's gone, disappeared. Let's talk about Emerson. Thoughts on him? Last 2 games, I think he's been sort of finding his feet a bit more in this team and the role he's been given now. I think definitely coming forward a lot more, and although I don't really see much for him from a defensive perspective as such all the time. I think because you got Aguerd sort of has that covered, but he just seems to be, again, didn't have a barnstorming game, but I thought he did okay. Again, I can't really remember any mistakes he made. I think he did okay. I think. What do you think?
I kind of agree. I think he was probably one of his best performances in a West Ham shirt so far, but it's not at the level that we hope it can be.
No,
I think that'd be fair to say. I think he broke through their sort of midfield a couple of times. He had a few surging runs. He linked up well. Good energy, but I think a lot of that was the cover from Aguerd as well. That was giving him protection there as well, because we played. What formation are we playing? Are we playing a 5 at the back? Are we playing a 3 at the back? Are we playing a 5 midfield? Well, we know it's that fluid motion, don't we? We know it's three central, Coufal and Emerson that can drop in but move forward. But we know that, especially with Emerson, it's not really left back. He's defensive. It's more that left midfield, that kind of going forward that we want him for. And I thought he excuse me, linked up well on the left hand side a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think for me, he's not at that level where I think he should be, or where I hope he would be.
Yeah,
but I think he had a decent game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think also, Lee made a good point. I think, with Cornet, hopefully, when he comes back, he came back on Monday. I think he's gone back to France. But when he finally decides he wants to come back and play football again, and he's 100% fit, that left-hand side of Aguerd, Emerson and Cornet will be settled. At the moment, it seems we haven't got, it might be Benrahma, that last chink of the puzzle. It might be Fornals. I think it's difficult for Emerson to bring any sort of consistency of who's in front of him, in terms of what they bring. And obviously Cornet, although he's an attack, he's brought in as an attacker, he does have in his locker the left wing back as a position he's played, so he'll be able to double up and stuff. But no, I thought it was an okay game for Emerson. He seems to be, as chat says, he's growing into the game, playing more games, and I think that's going to benefit him, and his experience in Europe is going to be valuable, because that's something we don't have. We will have, most of them got 1 year experience in Europe, really. So that's going to become very, very useful. I gave him a 6. It was all right. Six to me is like a good game, an okay game.
Yeah, no,
it goes up and down based on the scores. Right, let's talk about.
I think you're right. I think he was definitely for me, my impression is they will see the European games rather than the hard-fought Premier League games. I think if we're playing against, I think if we're playing something like I don't know, a team that plays good technical football in this country, let's say like an Arsenal, something like that, I think he'll do quite well. He could hold his own, but I don't think the likes of like a Wolves or something like that, or a Leeds or Forest right now, they're kind of struggling just like us. I think in those kinds of games, I think he might struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
It's hard. It's obviously it's hard to say, but
Yes, when something's slightly more akin to that European style of football in terms of
that
sort of more.
Yeah,
I get that. Yeah, makes sense. Let's talk about Mr. Rice. Let's talk about Declan Rice, captain. Do you know what I thought? I thought him and Paqueta ran that midfield on Saturday. I thought they absolutely ran it. I thought, you see the outpour of love from Newcastle fans on Twitter on Sunday and Monday saying, "Fucking hell, there's a player. There's a player." I thought he was exceptional. I thought it was a proper captain's performance. Old school, getting his foot in, driving forward. Again, he's got the confidence of Aguerd behind him to drive forward now rather than feel like he has to stand there. The amount of interceptions, I think interceptions and tackles, I think he led the game on both. They just couldn't get a foothold in midfield. And so he just forced them out wide. And that was the idea. Pat that midfield, force them out wide, and they couldn't cross it in. It's brilliant. It runs out superbly, I think, with Declan Rice at the moment.
Yeah. He's by far our best player. And, I think if Aguerd keeps on, he'll be just as accomplished or just as good in terms of the level of performance.
Yeah.
My question is, what is Rice's best position to play or best method of playing? Should he just sit in front of the defense and just play that ultimate, mop up sweeper role, whichever you want to call it, and just protect us? Or should he have this more dynamic going forward role that Moisey has tried to bring on the last season and a half? My question is, whilst he drives us on, I still think he's so much better just as intercepting and laying the ball off and just holding the line rather than trying to drive forward. But the problem is we haven't really had anybody else who can do that. So whilst he's there, he's the only one who can do it. Yeah. And possibly, it takes the likes of Paqueta to go in there to actually say, right, well, no, I can do this. Or we consider the likes of Benrahma, whether he could play more centrally to offer that kind of creative or that drive to go forward. So Rice can just completely boss the midfield, nothing's getting through, and then all of a sudden we've got other players that can just do that legwork going forward.
Yeah, totally. And to be honest, Alf, when he leaves, he's going to go to a team and do that role. A team like maybe say he went to Man City, for example.
Yeah.
He ain't going to go in and be a Kevin De Bruyne. He's going to go in and do a Fernandinho role. He's going to go in, sit in front of the back four, and do what he does for England. But what I like is, and I liken it back to someone like Yaya Toure. Yeah, that's all Yaya Toure used to do. Really, he was sat in front of defence, but he had it in his locker to go forward if he needs to.
Exactly. And that's where I think we should be. We shouldn't rely on him as a player to fulfill that role, but it's great that we're trying to bring that out of him.
Yeah. You're totally right. I mean, it's not like we haven't got the creativity to do the fancier stuff further up the pitch. And I think, our success over the previous 2 and a bit years was based on a strong defence and nicking the odd goal. And that was basically Declan Rice sitting in front of that back three. Looks like 8s, 9s for Dex. I gave him an 8. I gave him an 8, which is a good game. A good game for Dex.
Yeah, I'd say, really good. And unfortunately, anytime he has a good game, it just opens up the conversation even more about which team is going to come in for him in the summer. That's the problem, isn't it?
And then Moisey's post-match press conference saying basically he's going to have to considering Chelsea have bought Fernandes for 100 and something million, it's going to break the British bank to get him. Or, it's like, okay, well, that already assumes that he's for sale. Because always goes, he wouldn't even if he said if his tone was even if it was a British transfer record, we wouldn't let him go. Now it's like when he does choose to go,
I know
it's going to be for a lot of money. Okay,
that's it. They've all resigned themselves to the fact that he's going, and I don't know how a player, can keep ultimate focus, and play for the team, play for the badge, play for the fans when you're leaving at the end of the season. It's got to be so hard for him. This is not a criticism, by the way. This is just almost like a psychological question to say, how do you do it? How do you just keep on maybe just block it out? Just say, right now, whilst I'm here, which is fair enough. Whilst I'm here, doesn't matter what I do. I'd play 100% for the team, and that's all you can ask for anyway.
I think it's the same for most players. If they've got any integrity, that's what they do. They know, the majority of players come the summer, they're either out of contract or they're entering the final year of their contract. Very few players are, unless they're Chelsea and they're signed for 2.5 decades. But even then, they probably have the back of the mind that the manager might leave and might change them. So they're probably. But I totally agree. If you had all that pitch for the last 18 games, 20 games, whatever it is so far, and go, which one of those players do you think's leaving in the summer? If you didn't know anything, you wouldn't pick Declan Rice. He'll be at least one, just in terms of the effort he puts in. You never know. He might lift a trophy, be the first person since Billy Bonds to lift a trophy.
Absolutely,
In it. And his old partner in crime is a sporting director who's been there for 18 years, and everyone knows how much they love him, and he hasn't won nothing. So anyway, let's talk about his midfield partner, Lucas Paqueta. It winds me up when people say it's what's it like? Paqueta. It's Paqueta. He said it's Paqueta. That's his name. They don't call me Roos. He's getting better every game, isn't it?
Definitely. He's a player. He's just taken time to bed in, find the place of the Premier League, find how we're playing, and there's always criticism against the manager and the coaching staff, but it's, we've got to give not criticism, but we've got to focus attention on the players that underperform. And he, for the most part, has been underperforming since his arrival, but you can see there are those shoots of recovery, let's put it that way, as the politicians like to say. And he's definitely getting better. And I thought he had a decent game. Obviously the goal, but a decent game all around. So I think,
and then we had our mouth in our hearts in our mouths when he does the the worst. I think actually I could have probably done a better cartwheel than him.
My God. Do you know, were you the same when he started to launch into it? I thought, what are you doing? Just stop. Don't be stupid. And he did one, and then he landed. And did you see how he landed? He landed a bit awkward. Exactly. When I thought, you absolute donut. What have you done? I was just thinking, don't you dare start hobbling. Don't you dare. I thought, if I was Moisey afterwards, I'd be like, oi, come here. Come here, you. Come here.
Yeah, exactly.
No. You don't do that. Take your shirt off, get a yellow card. I don't give a toss. But don't you ever do that.
Do a little he did do a little dance. Like he did
do a little dance.
On his own and
do a little Bebeto dance. I don't care. I don't care what you do. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. But then if he scores another 10 goals this season, I won't complain.
No, you can do what you like.
I think he's definitely getting, he's getting the pace of the game. And I think again, this is probably the first time for about 3 or 4 games or in a row we've had a reasonably settled formation and a reasonably settled side, and you can see now it's starting. The cogs are starting to turn a little bit more now, and I just think, and what I like about him is, I like it and I don't like it at the same time. I like it because he likes to put it about. He likes to put in a tackle, and sometimes there might be a bit of afters and a bit of a foul or whatever, but I'd rather him just move up for the pitch 5 yards, 10 yards, just a little bit more up there, rather than needing to. He doesn't need to get involved in all that as much. Particularly,
unless he's hiding something. I don't think he's necessarily blessed with a lot of pace.
Yeah,
and I think he gets caught by the opposition players in terms of being tackled or potentially being tackled. And I think you're right. He's a bit slow in tackling back.
Yes.
And when I say that he's slow, I mean his timing is not quite right to make that perfect. So you're right, you're never quite sure whether he's just on the cusp of getting a card or not.
Yeah.
And that's my concern with him. Not his quality, but whether he's going to be a bit of a liability in those crunch games when we need our players, and he gets a card, or he gets 2 yellows, or he gets a straight red. And I can see that happening with Paqueta. He's that crucial game when we need him the most, he gets a red, and that's it.
It's like, you're totally right. It's that sort of like during like last season with Aaron Cresswell basically getting a red card anytime we needed him. It's that type of thing. You're right. It's like a little bit of afters. He seems to have that Latin hot flair, that temperament, and actually, if you just push it up 10 yards, you won't get involved as much there, and will benefit from that in terms of having a world-class player further up the pitch. But got a goal, as I said. Best way of describing Michael, a Brazilian grafter with skill. Because again, he's reminiscent of when we signed when we first signed Carlos Tevez, and that he just wanted to do everything.
Yes,
he wanted to be everywhere, and it's until I think Curbs basically said, "No, you stay up front, and we'll kick the ball to you." And it's a similar situation. Situation.
It's a funny breed, isn't it? The Brazilian players, not as in. No, what I mean, just let me, before people start
cancelling Revelator out.
No. What I mean is that there's the flair side. They're a funny footballing nation in that they produce quality all over the park, but there is a definite difference between certain players, that they have a complete flair players, and then they have those hard line, no nonsense players. So if you go back to the Brazilian team of is it 94 when they won it against Italy? It was at Dunga. Not a flair player at all. But you know what I mean? Hard as so the Brazilian players, we naturally think, we got a Brazilian, he's going to be great. Not always the case. And not always, and Paqueta seems as if he's got a bit of both. Bit of flair, bit of, as you say, a bit of bite there as well.
As I call it, a bit of Bonds and a bit of Brooklyn.
That's
how I always categorize players. They're either Billy Bonds type players or Brooklyn players, and very rarely do you have someone in the middle. And he can be one of them, but I'd rather be more Brooklyn than Bonds. In terms of, I gave him an 8. I thought an 8 was a fair score. I thought it was probably one of his best games for us, I think I'd say, to be honest. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about who's next. Bowen. Let's talk about Bowen. Oh, I felt sorry for him on Saturday.
Yeah, what do you feel sorry for him?
Well, for me, he just doesn't seem to. It's not clicking. He came back from the World Cup and not being in the World Cup, and he sort of he took him. He was almost like he had a bit of a kick start, and then he sort of drifted off, and then Danny said she's got twins on the way, and then everyone said, okay, well, there's a reason why your energy levels have been low, because you've been trying for a baby. Now you've got 2, so good luck. So in about 6 months' time, he's going to be really shit, because actually happened with Fornals, happened with Declan Rice for a bit, happened with Lanzini, because you can't have a baby and the energy levels will be down because you'll be knackered all the time. And then he started to pick up, and then I thought, okay, Newcastle, he's going to have a real good time. He's got Dan Burn, who's a 6'4", centre back playing left back. Just got to run past him, let him turn, and he didn't. He kept on cutting inside, and I thought, he struggled, particularly in the second half, a little bit more. I think he definitely struggled. And the England call-ups light years away than it was in terms of the levels he was at.
Oh, he's not ready for England. Definitely, he's off that. I mean, good performance against Everton. Obviously, good performance against Derby, which you would expect, of course. And I kind of feel for him, because there's a couple of times in the game where he was, totally unmarked, and if he'd got that pass, he would have been clean on goal. So I think he's getting in the right positions. I think the endeavour is still there. I just don't think it's not consistent. He's not consistent, but also I don't think the game is consistent. In other words, passes, the ball isn't finding him on a consistent basis. That's the point I'm trying to make. So I think it's not necessarily all his own fault, if you know what I mean. I think it's just he's a victim of circumstance, that he's not getting that final ball played to him properly, or played to him in space, or players are just going for shot on goal rather than actually passing it on to him, and so he can get a goal, get a shot away and goal.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, and I think you're right. I think some people in the chat say it's almost like because he had such a great season last season that he's almost got a target on his back. And I mean, he probably was. Him and Antonio were probably the most two foul players in the game.
Yeah,
but they consistently are. And you're probably right. I just think he's.
Yeah.
The
question is, all players get found out, don't they?
Yeah.
So right now, okay, apart from the game yesterday, but Haaland for Man City. Right, everybody's thinking, how can you stop this man? How can you stop this man? But he will. He'll get found out. They're starting to find him out already. And next season, the chances are, for him to produce the same level of performance again, because that won't happen. Because the chances are it won't happen in most games because teams are gonna, mark him out of the game pretty much.
Yeah, you're totally right. They'll be wise to it.
Yeah.
And they know what's going to happen. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Looks like 6s and 5s. I gave him a 6 as well. So yeah.
I'd say a 6 as well. I'm being charitable because I don't think it's all his own fault, as it were.
He still gets into really good positions, but I think sometimes they're almost like the player's a little bit blind to it. And we've had this imbalance where it's always gone down the right-hand side. And now it's because of Emerson. And, it seems to go a lot more down the left because Aguerd's there as well. And it seems to be. So, I think there's a slight imbalance there. But we'll see what happens with Bowen. Let's talk about Benny. He was on sort of the left of the front of the back. I don't really understand how that front three works really, but he always frustrates me as a player. He can, he's sometimes and I'll be honest, I get pelters for it, but sometimes I prefer Fornals in that position just because I know what I'm going to get. With Benny, I might get an 8, I might get a 10, I might get a 5. Whereas Fornals, I'm always going to get at least a 6. But he's not going to pull up any trees really, where Benny could do. Cut aside, because him and Bowen, they're on the wrong side for their feet, and so they always cut inside, don't they? But I mean, he's though he came on for the Derby game. I thought he played really well when he came on, and him and Emerson for that sort of 20 minutes, some really nice football. But Derby were a bit knackered by then. And sometimes he just runs down a cul-de-sac. And it's like, he reminds me of my brother playing 5-a-side football. And every game we'd kick off and say, sorry, you're not going to run the ball down the channel and run to the corner and get stuck. No, I'm not. And literally kicks off, does exactly the same thing.
It's almost like he's pre-programmed to play in a certain way. And this is when I couldn't go back to Bowen. There's a couple of opportunities when Benny had the ball. And it was like, well, if you just knocked it onto Bowen, he was in a much better position. It's almost like you got the blinkers on sometimes. And that's what he needs to do. He needs to either try and dribble it, try and beat a player. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes he lifts his head up and he surprises me and you think, oh, okay. All right, go on, bit more of this. And then he reverts back to type. And it's just, that's a hard one to crack there. I don't envy Moyes in trying to solve that one because that's a bit of a difficult one.
For me, for Benny, he's better as and he's not for me. He's not. He's the way he plays. He's better off the bench as an impact player because by the time that he's the impact, he has to make it. Usually the game's more stretched and he's got a lot more. He hasn't got someone up his arse all the time. Where particularly from a start, literally, the other team doesn't want to concede. They keep it strong. They keep a strong back 4 or back 5, and so then he struggles when the game's looser. That's when he comes into his own. And it's a conundrum which I think we'll never because Moyes will probably drop him because he hasn't played well, but at the same time he probably needs consistency and needs to stay in the team to improve. So it's like a chicken and egg thing. I gave him a 6. I thought he played okay.
I think that's fair enough.
Nothing to write home about, but again, which was a shame. So again, he has the skill to be a match winner. So particularly game like that.
You could argue that he's been the best player so far this season. But again, it's within. He's been the best player of a team of underperforming players. If that makes sense, but he's still been certain games he's been great, and other games not so great.
So,
you know.
Talking about players who sometimes are great and sometimes not so great. I just want to say welcome to Jim, new channel member. Thank you very much, Jim. If you want to become a channel member, hit the join button down there. Is Mikel Antonio, Mickey. Obviously his podcast friend was there and scored, and by all accounts he's meant to the next podcast do a celebratory dance in front of him as they that was their bet on the last podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know why Antonio would bet he was going to score a goal, but
no.
Gets fouled a lot. I mean, he battles. He's a battler.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the stuff he does for the team, I don't think we take into consideration sometimes because he doesn't score the goals. And, at the end of the day, he's a forward and he has to score. That's your job,
Yeah.
But
also, you have to get into positions to score as well.
Yeah, not drift out to the right-hand side.
Yeah.
That's part of the trouble with Mickey. For me, he battles hard. And I think probably from that perspective, it was a good game. But obviously from a conversion perspective, it's the same old story with him, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, we want to see the Antonio where he's really productive. He, either he can lay a ball off or he can get a shot on target, and more shots on target means the better chance of scoring, right? But we need that. But we see it so infrequently now. The last season and a half, we saw it a little bit when we had Payet and he had a few goals. Then we didn't see anything anymore. Then we saw it for that season under COVID. He came out, started knocking the goals in when the season restarted. And we were like, who's this guy? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, then it sort of gave him a new contract, drifted off again. In the Derby game, on the Twitter feeds, everybody's saying, who is this bloke? Who is he? And so, because he had a decent game, right? You think, well, he should have a decent game because it's against Derby, 2 leagues below us and all that sort of stuff. But again, it's that consistency, and I don't doubt he's trying. I don't doubt that it just doesn't work out for him, and that quality of that final ball, that final bit of control. How many times does he lose control? How many times that the attack breaks down because of something that he's done? I'm not saying it's all his fault, but it's that consistency that we'd like to see a lot more of at a higher level, and I just don't think we see it with Antonio.
No, I don't think we do. And I mean, as you said, there's no denying that he's not. It's like a school report, isn't it? You'll have an A for effort, but the attainment score isn't that high. And to be honest, that's been like a lot of our players this season. Maybe the effort was there, but we just weren't. The attainment was well low, and I think with him, he's one of those players who. Again, it's a bit like Benrahma. Sometimes, I mean, you always know what you're going to get with Antonio. He's going to just huff and puff and try and hassle and get fouls, and maybe we can make something out of those fouls, and he'll run the channels. Yeah. And then you'll get a random moment of genius. Yeah. It's a bit like Colton Cole. Yeah. In terms of how Colton Cole used to play. I remember when we played Tottenham once and he scored an absolute banger, and then literally the next time he had the ball, he basically passed it to Jermaine Defoe, who scored an equaliser. Yeah. And that to me is the same thing with Antonio. He can be someone in the chat always does it quite funny when I think it's James, and he says, put your scorings for Antonio, and he just does like an Excel formula, random, open 1 till 9, and that's basically it throughout the game. He'll play a 9, and then 2 minutes later he'll play a 2.
The thing is, Antonio, the question is now, is Antonio a West Ham Premier League player? Or is he another team in the Premier League? Is he good for them? Or is he a very good Championship player? That's what I can't find an answer to right now. No. I think he is. I think if you said in the COVID season, right? Now, any fan of any other team, and I spoke to a few fans of other teams, strangely enough, and the one player they always said we're scared of was Antonio. We are scared of him because of the way he puts it about, and that lingered for a little bit, but they're not saying that anymore. No, not many other fans, and I could be mistaken here, but they're not fearing Antonio like they used to. That sort of season when he was bullying defenses and getting goals away.
You're totally right.
And that's where we've kind of lost him a little bit.
Yeah, I think with him, it's like, as you said, he had so much just raw power, and you can see why teams were interested in him in January, because he's got something which no one else has got in the Premier League apart from Adama Traore, really. And I always thought that, because like when Chelsea were inquiring him, and I always thought they had gone to watched Dave reruns of Match of the Day about 3 seasons ago, because he was unstoppable, and now it's like people were almost like, if Ings wasn't injured, if Skamaka wasn't injured, maybe if we got like another forward in, I think people would have quite happily let him go. But
I think he would have gone. I think he would have. Yeah, I think he would have.
Yeah, I think he would have gone. He didn't. Although he wanted the challenge, when he got the challenge, he didn't like having the challenge. And at his age, he should be playing. Being such a big lad, you need to be playing all the time. Otherwise, your body will seize up. So I gave him a 6. I thought a 6 was a fair enough score. And let's briefly. Obviously, we won't really talk about Souček and Fornals because they only played like 20 minutes, or Ings or Downs. The fact we made 5 substitutions, I think, is quite an interesting one. Very rare. But let's talk about Ben Johnson. Obviously, came on at half time. In that back three, the right side, I thought he played really well. I thought Ben Johnson. I think that's where he needs to play. That needs to be his position now. And by the sounds of it, it's probably going to be that for Chelsea, to be fair. But I thought he played really well. And I think it was good to see he got to the pace of the game quite well. The commentators were saying how well he was playing, which is obviously a good sign.
I thought he played really well. I thought, it's hard to comment on the other players because you say they didn't have much time. I'm a huge fan of Downs, Flynn Downs. Huge fan. And I say this to my lad, when he's, we should be upset that when Deck goes, we should be upset. But at the same time, I'm not that upset. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm such a big fan of Flynn Downs. The way he plays, the way he can just sit in front of our defense and just mop it up. I just think he's got a lot of quality, that lad. I think that's the buy of this, last season for us. I think he's just brilliant.
And it's what he said. It's one of those buys which I think is going to come into its own next season and onwards. Not necessarily.
Exactly.
Totally
We're not seeing it now. We're not seeing it now, but we will see it. And I'm fantastic. I think it's just fantastic decision to get him in.
And I think with him, and the fact is we'll have between 80 and 100 million pounds to spend on other players. I think it's not a bad deal. Of course it's going to be a massive hole, but as you said, and maybe also because if Deck's playing that role, he's sort of doing his rather than being gallivanting forward. As you said, a Downs could come in and play that role, and you won't see a huge difference. But obviously, you would do from the progressive side of it. But I totally agree. And but I mean, the facts of Moyes making five subs. When was the last time he made 5 subs?
I
don't think he's ever done it this season. Without the need to.
Well, I think so. Kehrer, obviously there was one forced into it. But you're right. I can't remember a time he's done that. So
I mean, he took off.
And Johnson. But getting back to Johnson, I think a very decent performance, and I think Souček came on. I didn't see him do anything wrong. Fornals either. I just thought was largely ineffective, but didn't really do much wrong. Unless I missed something. But So.
No, I think it was, and actually, to be fair, I think the first time probably most of the season that I've agreed with every one of his substitutions. It's like we were losing the midfield battle a little bit, and Paqueta was getting a little bit. Actually, let's take off him, bring on Souček. Benrahma was losing a bit more ball. Let's bring on Fornals. It actually made perfect sense. Antonio's getting knackered. Let's bring on Danny Ings and. Look like he got injured again.
I mean, what have we criticised Moyes for? Couple of seasons, 2-3 seasons, off and on, right? Substitutions, in-game management, making tactical changes, according to how the game is going, right? But I think he did all right, actually, in this game, in terms of reacting to what was happening on the pitch or the condition of the players. And so I thought, look, Moyes is always going to get a lot of stick, right? And he's always going to get a lot of stick from the bulk of the fan base, and he gets a lot of stick from me and I'm sure many other people in terms of recent terms. But you can't deny that he made some good decisions there, and we played well, and we went there with a purpose. And we got a result, and we hey, we should have won.
Yeah, should have won.
Yeah.
And onwards and upwards to the Chelsea game now. So there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Alf, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's nice to do this with someone else rather than me.
Thank you. It's good. I'm at home today, so I thought, you know what? Let me come and have my 2 pennies worth.
No, very good. Because it wasn't much to grumble about as well. So we don't.
No, exactly.
But thank you very much. Obviously, thanks everyone in the chat as well. If you're new around here, where the hell have you been? But don't forget to like, comment, share, all those good stuff. Become a channel member. As we've got Tony Carr on the show this week on Wednesday night talking about the academy. Thursday we should have Scott Minto doing a next player preview of the Chelsea game. Obviously, he's got a foot in both camps. Whether that's going to be a live or it's going to be recorded, I don't know yet, but we'll see. But we should definitely have him on the channel this week and a few other bits and bobs. So don't miss anything. Hit that bell notification and click all like we hadn't seen. And buy a shirt from Untuck It. God bless them. Also, like I say, all of our channel members, all your legends, and all of our channel sponsors and stuff. So take care, stay safe. Bye, everyone. Come on, you irons. Irons. Love it.